Can you imagine a seemingly perfect life shattering into a million pieces? This is the tragic tale of Rachel O'Reilly. A vibrant woman, Rachel was known for her captivating smile and her radiant spirit. But beneath the surface of her picturesque life lay a chilling mystery that would shake her world to its core. Rachel O'Reilly, a name that would soon become synonymous with an enigma, a puzzle that begged to be solved. She was not just a woman, she was a daughter, a friend, a wife, and a mother. Her life was seemingly perfect, filled with joy and laughter. But as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. In the blink of an eye, her world was turned upside down. Her laughter silenced, her joy extinguished, and her radiant spirit dimmed. A dark cloud descended upon her life, casting a long, dreadful shadow. A shadow that would soon reveal a disturbing truth. What happened to this vibrant woman, and how did her life meet such a tragic end? The date was October 4th, 2004, a day that started like any other but ended in a nightmare. As dawn broke, Rachel O'Reilly, a vibrant woman known for her infectious laughter, began her day just as she would any other. The birds chirped as she opened her eyes, the sunlight casting a warm glow on her surroundings. Yet, unbeknownst to her, a dark cloud was looming on the horizon. Rachel, ever the early riser, greeted the day with her usual zest. She loved the quiet of the morning, the gentle hum of life awakening in her neighborhood. She reveled in the simple pleasures, the aroma of fresh coffee brewing, the soft rustle of the morning paper, the sight of her children still sound asleep, their faces the picture of innocence. As the morning hours ticked by, Rachel went about her daily routine. She dropped her kids off at school, exchanged pleasantries with neighbors, and returned home to a house that was unusually quiet. For Rachel, this was a day like any other, filled with mundane tasks and familiar routines. But as she was about to discover, nothing was as it seemed. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the quiet neighborhood, a chilling discovery was made. Rachel's lifeless body was found, a grim end to an otherwise ordinary day. The news spread like wildfire, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief in its wake. The vibrant woman, known for her laughter and love for life, was no more. In the blink of an eye, the ordinary had turned extraordinary. The mundane had become horrifying, and a day that had started like any other had ended in a nightmare. As the neighborhood lights flickered on, casting an eerie glow on the darkened streets, a chilling reality set in. Rachel O'Reilly, a beloved mother, friend, and neighbor, was gone. What started as an ordinary day ended as the worst day in the lives of those who loved Rachel. As the news of Rachel's death spread, the police swung into action, their task to bring her killer to justice. And so the wheels of the investigation began to turn, fueled by the determination to uncover the truth. The initial stages of the investigation were marked by rigorous scrutiny of the crime scene. The officers, like trained hounds, sniffed out every nook and cranny of Rachel's home, searching for clues that could lead to her killer. The scene was a jigsaw puzzle, with each piece holding the potential to either reveal or further obscure the picture. Among the clues unearthed, a few stood out. A broken window, a disturbed flower pot, signs of a struggle. Each one was meticulously documented, every detail potentially a critical lead. The officers' eyes, hardened by years of seeing the worst humanity had to offer, looked beyond the surface, trying to piece together the last moments of Rachel's life. While the physical evidence was being gathered, another team was busy piecing together the human puzzle. They began questioning those who knew Rachel, from neighbors to close friends, from casual acquaintances to her family. Each person was a potential well of information, their memories and observations forming a tapestry of Rachel's life and the circumstances surrounding her death. The suspects? Well, there were a few. From the mysterious stranger seen loitering around her house to the disgruntled ex-boyfriend with a motive, the net was cast wide. Each suspect was carefully investigated, their alibis checked, their backgrounds scrutinized. Yet, as each lead was followed, it seemed to lead to a dead end. The investigation was like a maze, filled with twists and turns, blind alleys and dead ends. But the police were undeterred. They knew that each step, each question, each clue was bringing them closer to the truth. Despite the numerous leads and suspects, the killer remained elusive. The case was far from closed. The quest for justice for Rachel was just beginning, and the investigators were determined to leave no stone unturned. The investigation took a sharp turn when a familiar face became the prime suspect. As the days turned into weeks, the police were still left with more questions than answers. However, a breakthrough came when they stumbled upon a series of suspicious phone records. The record showed a pattern of calls made at unusual hours, and the person on the other end of these calls, none other than Rachel's husband. The husband, who had until now been seen as a grieving spouse, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Evidence began to pile up against him. Forensic experts discovered traces of the same type of paint found at the crime scene in his car. The paint, a rare and specific shade, was the same as the one used to paint Rachel's house just days before her disappearance. The police also found a pair of gloves with traces of Rachel's blood in his possession. Though he maintained his innocence, claiming he had used the gloves for gardening, the presence of Rachel's blood was difficult to explain away. The husband's alibi also began to crumble. He had claimed to be at a friend's house on the day of the murder, but the friend could not corroborate his story. CCTV footage from a nearby gas station showed him in the area around the time of the murder, contradicting his alibi. And then, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. In a shocking twist, a secret lover came forward, revealing that she and Rachel's husband had been having an affair. She claimed he had promised to leave Rachel for her, providing a possible motive for the crime. With this mounting evidence, the police finally made their move. The husband was arrested, and the once safe and quiet community was left reeling. The shock was palpable. Rachel's killer, it seemed, was not a stranger lurking in the shadows, but someone who had shared her life, her home, and her bed. As the evidence mounted, the shocking truth began to emerge. Rachel's killer was closer to home than anyone could have imagined. The courtroom was on edge as the trial of Rachel O'Reilly's murder began. The solid oak benches groaned with the weight of anticipation, echoing the heaviness in everyone's hearts. The trial was a culmination of a long and arduous investigation, and the public was eager for justice. Each day of the trial was marked with a flurry of testimonies from key witnesses, expert analysis of evidence, and impassioned arguments from the prosecution and defense. The prosecution's case was built on a sturdy foundation of forensic evidence, including DNA, fingerprints, and even the minutest fibers collected from the crime scene. The defense, however, tried to poke holes in the prosecution's narrative, questioning the validity of the evidence and the credibility of the witnesses. Among the testimonies, a few stood out. The chilling account of a neighbor who'd seen an unusual car parked near Rachel's home on the day of the murder. The heart-wrenching testimony of Rachel's best friend, who had spoken to her just hours before her life was brutally ended. And perhaps the most damning of all, the testimony of a forensic expert who linked the defendant directly to the crime scene. The trial, which lasted for several weeks, was a roller coaster of emotions. There were moments of hope, despair, anger, and sadness. The public was divided, with some firmly believing in the defendant's guilt, while others remained skeptical. Finally, the day everyone had been waiting for arrived. The jury, after hours of deliberation, had reached a verdict. The room fell silent as the foreman of the jury stood up, the weight of the verdict evident in his solemn expression. Guilty. The word echoed in the courtroom, a sigh of relief for some, a shock for others. The defendant was found guilty of the murder of Rachel O'Reilly. With the gavel's final strike, the fate of Rachel O'Reilly's killer was sealed. The courtroom, once buzzing with whispers and murmurs, fell silent. The trial had come to an end, but the memory of Rachel O'Reilly would forever remain in the hearts of those who knew and loved her. The case of Rachel O'Reilly had come to a close, but one question lingered. A seemingly ordinary life had been shattered by an act of unthinkable violence. The outcome? A guilty verdict that brought justice, yet left a community grappling with shock and grief. This case rocked not only those who knew Rachel, but also those far beyond her immediate circle. It was a chilling reminder that, beneath the veneer of a perfect life, darkness can lurk. The public was left to wonder how such a tragedy could occur, how signs could be missed, and how a life could be stolen so brutally. In its aftermath, the case of Rachel O'Reilly served as a stark lesson in awareness and vigilance. It underscored the importance of never ignoring the subtle signs of trouble, of reaching out, of being there for each other. In the end, justice was served, but at what cost? The tragic tale of Rachel O'Reilly serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect life.
A homicide investigation was underway after a fire in the South Memphis happened on September 6 around 4:30 p.m., just days after Lomax went missing. People who worked and lived in the area said they saw swine was blocked off by police on both sides that morning, but they had no idea why. 27-year-old Dominique Lomax's family reported her missing the night of September 5th after she was last seen the morning of September 4th, according to Memphis Police Department. My condolences go out to the Dominique Lomax family, her brother, family, her boyfriend. And this is a sad story. Hopefully they can find her, and hopefully they can find closure.